Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining the live stream. We are excited. It is National Social Workers Month, so we are taking the chance to talk to some of our team, talk about social work, and as some of us, we call it here, care management. So we got a great group here to chat. Up on the top left of our box, we've got Emily Regan. She is the Director of Social Work up on our subacute rehabilitation floor. Emily, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.
And then we've got Ashley Brown. She is the Director of Care Management here at Mary Free Bed, covers floors 3, 4, and 6. Yes. And so we're talking about social work and care management. You'll kind of hear it interchanged a lot. But for people who don't know, Emily, if you can let us know, what is social work in the rehabilitation setting?
Yeah, I like to say we're kind of the middleman. We're putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. So whether it's discharge planning, help with private duty at home, home care, family dynamics, we kind of put all of those pieces out here and put them back together.
Great. I mean, it is that such a big, like, overseeing type role. Ashley, why do we call it care management? And other places you might hear social work.
Yeah, so it's just a little bit different here. So the model that we decided to take on in the acute care setting is kind of like we've immersed into it some nursing, right? And so we can't call it a social services department if we have nurses in it as well. So we moved it to an umbrella of care management to be able to incorporate all the different pieces within our group, so that we can keep what's appropriate within our wheelhouses in the appropriate wheelhouses when we're setting up these discharge planning purposes. So so my team is comprised of social workers and nurses.
Nice. And so you guys are just so involved in a patient's recovery. And so they might come to us after a stroke or a brain injury or a spinal cord injury, an amputation. But you guys work with the patients and see the whole picture of their recovery. Why is it important for you as social workers and care managers to see the whole recovery of a patient?
Yeah, so it's because at the end of the day, our patients are more than just their illness or their injury, right? And so they're coming to us and we're seeing like this small snippet of their lives. So they're coming to us in this moment. And in order for our patients to have successful long-term recovery success, we want to be able to step back and see the patient's whole picture. So we know that a patient's overall well-being is very much linked to their ability to have access to just basic care needs, right? Like, do you have a place to live? Do you have access to food? Do you have access to medical care? Do you have transportation to medical appointments or work and home? And so as the medical team and the rest of the therapy team are working towards those immediate recovery goals, it allows us to be able to step back and provide patients with resources and other things that can help provide to them or help combat barriers that have come up that may affect them down the road, so that not only are they having a successful rehab journey, but it's going to last them way down the road.
Yeah, that's just a great perspective. And to see the people that way is more than just, just this, I'm in this state. It's their whole life that they have ahead of them. They might be here for 2 weeks or a month or a couple months, but they've got their life in front of them. Emily, it takes a special person to be a social worker or care manager. Like, who is an employee kind of thrives in this role?
Loves organized chaos, detail-oriented, being able to prioritize which crisis comes at you and which one to do first. Also, being able to understand that patients and families might be at the worst time of their life when they're coming to see you, and you're the person they're going to take that out on. It's nothing personal. You have to draw that boundary. So just understanding you have to meet people where they're at.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback off of her on that one. So all of those, yes, for sure, all of those things. I think that in order to be a successful social worker or care manager in this field, you also have to be a problem solver, an advocate. Like, we have to be the advocate for the patient, right? Because not only are we being an advocate for them, but we need to empower them to be advocates for themselves. And so that's a really important thing. We have to be able to think outside the box, because if what we could set up for patients was easy and cookie cutter, that'd be great. But the reality of the world we're in, that's not the case. So we have to be creative. We have to think outside the box. We have to be empathetic. Because like Emily said, we are getting them in these crucial moments that sometimes we are their listening ear. We are the place where they're venting,
Yeah.
right? Whatever that may be. So we need to be empathetic, but we also have to be really good communicators, not just with our patients and our families, but also with the team so that everybody's on the same page moving towards the same goal.
So I don't know sometimes if people know this, but like the whole team, this rehab team meet and talk about your patients. You have these conferences, and so you guys are sitting there, and the physical therapists are there, the speech therapists, the occupational therapists, and the doctors. You're all talking about the
Right.
patients, and you're there in that too. What are those conversations like?
Interesting because they're all different, right? So you can have two patients on the floor that have the exact same diagnosis, but their situations are not the same, right? And so that's where their recovery is not looking the same. Their discharge support isn't the same. The resources they need are not going to be the same. So being able to come together as a team and kind of collaborate and make sure that we're all focusing on the barriers that we need to focus on to be able to get them to that next level of care the most successful way we can is really helpful. But being able to see the perspective and have a little bit more understanding and respect for the different roles that each person plays in that patient's journey is really cool to see.
So it's just great to hear just the passion that you both have for this role and for our patients. Ashley, what kind of inspired you to get into this position of, care management?
Yeah, so I kind of felt like it was a natural progression for me. When I started out in my social work career, I actually started out working hospice.
Okay.
And I did that for several years. And then once I did that, I moved into acute care. But I worked mostly with trauma. So I was getting them right through the ER. And so I kind of thought to myself, I love the medical piece of it. I loved the medical social work, right? So I always knew that I really loved the medical piece. I loved working in the hospital and I just loved that aspect. And I realized that I had been with the patients at the beginning of their journeys and I had been with patients at the end of their journeys. And I decided that I really wanted to find a way to be with them in that middle space to kind of help along the way. And so when I moved here from Mississippi and found a potential position at Mary Free Bed, I was like, you know what, this might be exactly what I've been looking for. So I've been very fortunate to be able to do that.
So Emily, just so great to hear the passion of the work that you guys do. So can you share a moment like in your career where you were reminded and why you were doing the work you're doing?
Yeah. And I love to remind my patients and families of that. If we've got good rapport and I love to remind them, you are the reason I do what I do. I absolutely love what I do. It never feels like a job to me, like, oh, here's Monday again. So when I have a patient that's met their goals and we've got a safe discharge plan and families on board, and I get to see them kind of like Ashley said, from the beginning in this horrible time frame of maybe 2 weeks to get to where they need to be at the end of 2 weeks, they are elated. They are so happy to go back home. And it totally just melts my heart when patients meet their goals and get back where they want or even to the next stepping stone of where they want to be.
What about you, Ashley? Are there any moments that remind you like why you keep coming to work every day?
Yeah, for me, it's that aspect of being able to be an advocate for the patient. And as we advocate for the patient along the way, seeing that shift along the way where they start to advocate for themselves.
That's good.
And they start to see this little piece of recovery, or they start to recognize that, my situation may be completely different from what it used to be. And this may be our new normal, but that's okay. And I can still be independent. I can still do everything I want to do. We just have to do it a little different. So being able to see that emotional shift has always been really fulfilling for me.
And so we know these jobs are really fulfilling, but they can also be pretty tough at times too. What have been some of the most challenging parts about working with our patients as a social worker and as a care manager? Emily?
Yeah, I would say when, we've got a plan A and patient and family really want to pursue plan A. But unfortunately, plan B or plan C has to be the one we pursue. So sometimes you can kind of see the light dim in them a little bit when we have to switch gears and talk about, okay, these are our new goals and this is the safest recommendation on our end. Patients, of course, have the right to make their own decisions if they're their own decision maker. But kind of seeing the light dim in them, takes it out of you. Or if they have a terminal illness that they discover while they're here, or just recently before they got here, and then, they have to switch gears, and then we're talking hospice and whether they're going to go home on hospice. And some patients don't want to die at home, or family doesn't want them to die at home. So it's difficult with those pieces sometimes, and making sure it's the safest, most appropriate discharge plan for a patient. So kind of like we talked about, we have to be the biggest cheerleader for these patients, and they might have cheerleaders in their circle, their family, but we have to do what's like safest for them and professionally recommended. So
That's got to be tough. And Ashley, what about you? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, as a social worker, I feel like, and maybe it's just my own personal experience, but being a social worker, like, I want to fix things. Like, that's why I do what I do. And to be in a situation where I don't feel like I can fix it, or I don't feel like there's a resource that I can provide that's going to alleviate some of the anxiety or the stress or anything that's going on, is really, that's hard for me. And so that resource availability is probably one of the biggest challenges that I see in this role, is that we see what's needed.
Yeah.
We know what's needed. Does that resource exist? Right? So that's the struggle, is being able to have access to the resources we need to make sure that we are providing the patients everything that we possibly can.
And as we start to wrap up, it's just been so great talking with you both for National Social Workers Month, raising awareness about the team and what the hard work that they do. So in case you ever have an injury or illness and you need to go into rehabilitation, you understand who this person, this player is that's going to be helping you, being the advocate for you. Let's go around one more time and just talk about those moments of fulfillment. Emily, what has been some of the greatest fulfillment you've got out of this role?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. So one I want to touch on is I love asking patients and their significant other their life advice or their relationship advice. Over the years, I've gotten some very interesting ones. Some I could share with the team, some I could not. So I've loved that. I've learned so much from our patients and their families. So I've absolutely loved that piece. Another piece, like a recent patient I just had discharged this past week, our team recommended he go to long-term care. Patient and daughter said that is on our plan A, B, or C. Our plan A, B, and C is to go home. We have a wheelchair elevator. We will do absolutely whatever we can. If we need a Hoyer lift, any equipment, private duty, we'll make it happen. So, of course, we switch gears. We're no longer going to set our goals toward long-term care. We set our goals to be home safe with spouse. And we did it, and he's home safe, and they said things are going really great.
That's
so
good to hear.
it's stories like that that just make me so happy.
That's awesome. Ashley, what about you? What is, as we wrap things up, a moment of fulfillment for you in this?
Yeah, I mean, it's really being able to watch the patients reach, like she said, reach their goals, but also, seeing the families or friends or neighbors or whoever it may be that their support system involves, is being able to see that education that they're being provided makes them feel confident to be able to do the care that they need to do. And probably seeing patients that, they, like we mentioned, they're just in really bad situations when they come to us. I mean, generally, if you're coming to a rehab hospital, it's not because you've had a good experience, right?
Yep.
And so, but being able to see those patients that even when everything has kind of changed in their lives, they still have just this positiveness about them. I mean, I will never forget this one patient that I had when I still worked on the floor. And it was a young gentleman, diving accident, new quadriplegic. And he and I ended up with a really great rapport. We kind of bonded over Red Wings hockey. Go Red Wings. And so we would talk back and forth, and we would joke around, and he would talk about his significant other that he had been dating for 7 years. And I'd be like, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
Like, are you gonna keep her? Like, what's going on? He was like, yeah, she's a keeper. I'm like, well, do something about it. And so it was just amazing to see that, like, he worked so hard to be able to get up and start moving again and to be able to start walking again. And he didn't get that point here, but he and his family kept us updated after they discharged. Not only did he propose to that girl, but he was able to use a cane and walk down the aisle to her at their wedding. And so it's one of those things that, like, that is fulfillment to me. It's to see just that resilience and to see just determination and for it to work out, and it
Absolutely.
doesn't always work out, but that doesn't change the fact that people are trying. And that's what does it for me. So.
Well said.
Love it.
Very well said.
Emily and Ashley, it's been so great chatting with you. Love to end on that note there too. So once again, this is National Social Workers Month. We're just taking a chance to talk about all the great hard work that our team is doing behind the scenes to help our patients in their recovery. So you've been watching this video from Mary Freebed. If you have any questions, you can go to our website to learn more. Thank you so much for watching and stay well.
Thank you.